Well, hello. Welcome back, Blade fans. OG Blade Reviews with you once again. I'm feeling pretty OG today. OG old. Yeah, I know that OG thing is a new moniker for those that have been doing something for a while or simply been around for a while, whatnot. Funny how a lot of the younger people say, well, you know, back in the day, what day is that? You're 20 years old. When you were 10, you mean? Back in my day is a little further back than that. But, yeah, OG, original gangster, you know, whatever. I'm not a gangster. But, blah, blah, blah. Too much coffee. AM8 knives. Well, that's really Migron. It's kind of a secondary name they chose for, I think, a division. It might even be their OEM division. I'm really unsure on that. But Sam Luo is the owner, and he's getting a lot of recognition from auxiliary manufacturing because they're OEMing for Mike Jarvis for a lot of his production stuff coming out. And certainly quite a bit now for DC Blades, who initially was using Shieldon and is no longer using Shieldon, but is exclusively using AM8 Migron. Let's see what's in the box. And the box will give you a challenge. I found that you got to sort of open it that way. And I'm going to zoom out just a bit. There we go. Nice box. Keeps the knife safe. What can I say? There's a sleeve that goes over it too. There you get a sticker for AM8. You get kind of their mission statement here. And there's some more info on AM8. In case you have designs that maybe you want to put into production. Great way to go. Microfiber cloth. Okay, all the usual. You're bored already. What's in the box? Well, it's brand new and it is called the LMS. This is available on Amazon. Okay, and I'll make sure you've got the Amazon link. I got mine on Amazon. This was not sent to me for review, although I may be getting a copy, according to Justin, of DC Blades for review, as well as this guy. This guy I chose one of two options. This is the gray PVD blade, and yes, the coating is PVD. Powder vapor deposition. That's really a way of getting the coating on the blade, not so much the material that is contained within it. So I understand from some light research that I've done. But LMS is Last Man Standing. If you look it up on Amazon, for some reason, they messed up and it's LSM. All right, that's incorrect. It's LMS, according to Justin at DC Blades. And yes, it's DC Blades branded. It's in 14C28N, and they are just going wild with their Pikal style knives. What is Pikal? That's a Filipino term which means to rip and tear or jab. I think all of those things. It's a term that I first learned in Filipino martial arts, studying Pikiti Tercia, or Pikiti Tercia, however you like to pronounce that. Quite a few years with Grand Tuhan Leo Gahe and Tuhan Bill McGrath. The way we used to do Pikal was simply with a double-edged knife and having one edge in, one edge out, and you could cut both ways. But since Ed Calderon and Ed's Manifesto and Elvia style, I should say Libre style combatants, people that are studying tactical knife stuff, this style has become very popular, which is usually a single edge and a high raised point above or in line with the center of the hand. You can see with this one, that point is well above. And that's how a lot of people prefer their Pikal knives. We also call it Pakal in Pikiti Tercia. But that's just a way of romanizing another language. Happens in Chinese language too. You had Wei Giles, and now it's Pinyin, and so on and so forth. Anyway, that's mainly my language experience through the martial arts, not from studying any languages. I have an interesting, I don't know what you'd call that, kind of jimped pommel. The other place I saw this actually recently was on the Work Tough Gear Little Evil fighter that I have and did a review on. But what it does give you is a great place for your thumb, but it also gives you, it doesn't protrude very far, but if you hit with that on the return, that's going to provide some good shock, shall we say. We've also got jimping here. And if I didn't say so, it's 14C28N. So you got a good budget steel. These are only coming in roughly around 70 on Amazon. I don't see them yet available on DC Blades. They may eventually get a batch for sale out there. But right now, if you want one of these, as of this date, they're available, excuse me, on Amazon. And you can get it in like a couple of days, depending upon where you are. This was delayed a little bit, but I did eventually get it after a 1 or 2 day delay. I love the sculpting on the handle. Justin Carvin, who does a lot of the design work for the Marshall side of the house, I believe put a lot of effort into the handle. I'm sure that Chris, I think it's Chris Hansen, and I usually get his last name wrong, so just we'll call him Chris, of DC Blades. I'm sure he has some input as well. But this is so ergonomic. This is probably going to be, if you're a Pikal or Pikal fanatic, one of the best fixed blade Pikal knives that you have ever laid eyes on or laid hands on. It does come in a very stout Kydex sheath. It will, see how it's just, the alignment's just a little off here, but if you push it, it goes in that much. If you give it an extra hard push, it seats all the way. It does come out, I'd say, just about right. So you may need to just work that sheath a little bit. Often is the case with production Kydex sheaths. They're making one mold for all their knives, and technically should fit. What I do is just take like a little bit of silicone or a little bit of ceramic car spray, finishing spray, put it inside there in the throat of the sheath, and it just makes the sliding in and out a lot easier. But you can certainly thumb it off, no problem. They give you a mini tech lock. If you don't like these thicker, heavier things, you can go to a DCC clip or an Ulti-clip. Just take the screws out. I haven't checked the fit, but looks like we've got some appropriate spacing here and over here. So just something you need to play around with. Or, you could use a strap. You could drop it in your pocket. Just watch, if you drop this in your pocket, that, well, when you thumb it off, it's going to be edge forward, right? And although you can use the knife this way, I think it's Craig Douglas, the South Narc guy that teaches knife techniques that were kind of designed for tight quarters inside a car when he was a narcotics agent. Shiv pick is something that he invented. You can use it that way, all right? So you can pull cut with it. You can thrust in from the angle and pull. So you can rip this way. With Pikal or Pikal, you're ripping this way. All right. I'm going to shut up and we're going to get some measurements going here before it gets too long into the video. I like to give you a lot of detail. What can I say? I'm sure you, along with many other people, will skip ahead, or you may sip your coffee and watch the whole thing. Thank you very much. 6 3/4 inches overall, with a blade, if we count just the steel portion, about 2.9. If we're looking at the edge, 2.5 inches. If we're talking metric, We're talking about 16, well, call it 17 to those jimps on the end, 17 centimeters. And 7.5 centimeters blade, cutting edge 6.5 centimeters. Looking for my caliper. Yeah, okay. Gonna need the scale too. I'll put it over there for now. Caliper, and I got inches set up, so let's look at the blade stock in inches. 0.16, handle 0.63. It is nicely sculpted. 16.2 millimeters on the handle, 4.2 millimeters on the blade stock. Finally, the weight. Come around to grams. Weight in grams, 115 grams. Weight in ounces, 4 ounces, 4.05, whatever. So not a heavy knife. The question always is, what kind of a factory edge do they give us? It's not the edge the knife is capable of, because you can use a crock stick, I think, on this one. Often people wonder how to get that reverse curve or inverse curve, whatever you want to call it, sharpened. And I would say on this one, either a diamond rod or a ceramic crock stick. So it's going to rip and tear. That's its main job. Will it do fine food prep and slicing? Well, as it comes, not particularly. Let's see, if I go here and pull, yeah, it's going to rip. I would say you've got an okay edge, but it can be improved on. And I'm seeing this a lot with production knives. You know, that's a smooth edge, all right? I got a fair amount of pressure going there. And I'm not going to knock the knife because of the factory edge that it comes with, because hopefully those of you out there that are looking at this style knife have a strong background in carrying knives for tactical use, and you know how to sharpen a knife. So I would say a few strokes either on a strop. Yes, you can do reverse curve on a strop if you work along the edge of the strop. If you have a thinner strop, the field sharpener that they have with all the different sharpening surfaces on it from Worksharp, that is a great way to go, and that's thinner, and you could probably start by trying to strop it on something like that thin leather strip with the compound built in. All right, we're going to go directly to compares. I'm going to bring out the very first design that DC Blades came out with, as far as I know, the Shieldon Scythe. Now I want you to see the difference in the points and the way they're set up. So if I get the axis of the handles the same, you're going to see how that point is more or less forward. This point goes down. This is a very small knife, although they have the XL version with higher grade materials as well. This is 154 cm. But you can see if I move that knife forward and then pull down, it is hitting more or less the blunt backside of the blade. If you pull down on your first movement, no problem. But if you go like this, you're not going to have the best penetration into your target. You can see that this hooks down and this is pretty much straight. That's my preference, and the preference of many others who study that style of knife combat. All right, we're going to go to the Vendetta by DC Blades. See if we can put these over on the side. A very popular knife for Pikal stylists. This is M390 and titanium, so we bumped up quite a few notches in materials quality, but it also is going to bump the price up there. And I'll make sure you got the DC Blades link as well as the Amazon link for the Last Man Standing, LMS. This is really nice, and I want to thank DC Blades for sending it my way back a few months ago for review. You can see we've got a very similar situation with the point different, but works the same. Definitely forward, not raised quite as high, but more of a broad sweep on the inner edge. Then we're going to go to something I'm not sure is still being made, but it might be available out on DC Blades. This is the Rev, and this is a collaboration knife between DC Blades and Auxiliary Manufacturing, Michael Jarvis. This is very similar to a fixed blade design that Mike Jarvis has come out with. This one's 154 cm. This was OEM'd by Shieldon. This one's a prototype that was sent to me for review by Justin out at DC Blades. This is a different concept with a reverse edge knife, meaning that we've got basically a classic Wharncliffe, right? And the handle set up so you can hold it this way, but also functions pretty much like a regular Wharncliffe, except for this scoop out here and the straight line down there. And I'm going to make a little more room. There we go. A blackened blade on this one, really nice PEI handle. I won't call it Ultim. PEI is the generic term, kind of like facial tissue is for Kleenex. Kleenex being a brand name. So that's the Rev. Little longer blade, set up differently, but still works quite well because of that classic Wharncliffe for piercing. What else we got next? I'm going by my notes here. The Mark II, one of my favorites from DC Blades up till now, but it is a folder as opposed to a fixed blade. And this one's great. The ring is removable, okay? Steel on this, 14C 28N. You're going to find most of the newer ones coming from Miguron AM8 are going to be 14C because they're keeping the price down for you. And this is set up very much like the LMS. Okay? Very much the same blade. A little less curve on the inside than we've got going on here, but still the high raised point. And when you lock it in with this ring, it's simply perfect. A lot of people complain about rings. They are worried about something thrown out there by the Calderon camp that knives with rings like karambits are dangerous to the user because the knife can be pulled out of your hand and your finger degloved, meaning the skin ripped from your finger. If the ring is smooth, that's not a danger. If you've got a good grip on the knife and you're not shocked like this to where your hand opens up completely, I don't think you're going to be subject to that because what there is to grab here is basically the blade. And if you start grabbing my blade, I'm going to start jabbing and ripping with that blade and get you off of me. But I really like the Mark II. Aluminum handle scales and the ring, which is again removable. I haven't removed that one. I haven't given it a try. Finally, last DC Blades comparison. This is the Nameless, because they never came up with a name for it. That also has a very high arching point. You see how that goes. This has a really nice kind of a fat carbon insert inlay. Aluminum handle. Again, 14C on this one, I'm pretty sure. And it has this rooster comb, which can be used as a wave opener, okay? You see that? They're very sharp on this one. This was a sample sent to me, and what I've noticed is that the combs on the production models have been dehorned, so they're not sharp, but they will hook the fabric on your pocket as you pull it out, and it'll wave open. Or you can use the front flipper, or you can use the thumb stud. Just as easy. Interesting thing is when you, this is a liner lock. Yeah, no, frame lock. Oop, almost cut myself. When you open it with the thumb stud and your hand is this way, you notice that the front flipper kind of can hit your finger and stop the progress of the opening. Some very fine jimping inside here on this nameless Pikal knife. But look at the lineup there. These are all from DC blades. Many of them OEM'd by Migron. I'm going to bring out one more. We can't talk Pikal folders without talking Dirk Pinkerton. And this is a prototype he sent me a while ago. This is his Troodon. I'm sorry, Smilodon. Smilodon, not Troodon. Oh, all the dinosaurs, right? Smilodon, saber-toothed tiger. This is Dirk's. Used to be called the Inversion, made by Kaiser, but he since has reappropriated the design, and he's having it OEM'd under his own name. There's both a high-class titanium ringed model, and there is this without the ring, lower, more budgety knife coming in around 60, 70 or so with the G10 scales or micarta scales. And you can get these directly from Dirk's website, but you can also check his Instagram page. Also a very functional point, kind of a cross between what happened with the Rev here and what's happening with the Vendetta here. And I think these are coming in at 14C 28N. Well, I had lots to talk about, lots to show you, and we're running 22 minutes at this point. So forgive me if you had to go through the whole thing to get the info you wanted, but if you skipped ahead and you're asking me questions about stuff that I explained, you may want to go back or simply ask me in the comments, and I'm sure I'll have some time to get to your question right about now. Logo's here, magically appearing. Click on it if you haven't subscribed, and you'll be notified every time a new video drops on this channel. Be well, take care, stay safe.